Welcome to this course on carbon footprints. We have named this as an introductory course, Understanding Carbon Footprints. And the first lecture on this is about the context of carbon footprints. I mean to say, what is the relevance of understanding carbon footprints? So, the objective of this very first lecture is to introduce you to this carbon footprint contest, especially the global efforts which are being carried over by the world leaders to reduce the carbon footprint. So that is the plan. And in the entire course, we would be learning some tricks of estimating the greenhouse gas emissions. And finally, the outcome would be to write a report which would quantify the carbon footprint either for a family or for an industry, for any enterprise for that matter. So let us start with the context of carbon footprint. I mean to say the challenges before us from climate change. So to define carbon footprint is the total amount of greenhouse gases, uh, including the carbon dioxide and methane, as well as certain fluorocarbons, which are generated by us, by we, the human beings, because of our consumption. And this consumption contributes to the climate change, and hence it is relevant for us to quantify those greenhouse gases which are emitted by us. It has got the climate change connection, and hence it is relevant for us to quantify, get it in numbers, what is the damage we are causing to the environment. Climate change is a complex environmental concern. There's a lot of research going on, a lot of committees working on that. A team of scientists dedicated to this issue is working 24 by 7 to quantify, and not only quantify, but also to assess the impact of greenhouse gases on the environment. This is our attempt, our contribution. This video is our contribution to help lessen the impact of the environment. Okay. So I'm sure that at the end of this course, the entire course, you would be capable of estimating the carbon footprint, and not only capable of estimating the carbon footprint, you would take action to reduce the carbon footprint and thus contribute positively to the environment. So greenhouse gas emissions, we have all studied in physics that these are the gases which are essential, but if their proportion becomes exceeds, then the trapping, which is very essential, trapping of the sunlight, trapping of the heat, which is essential, but if it exits beyond the essential, it is called as the global warming, right? So the balance is essential. The carbon balance, what is generally called as this carbon balance, the balance of the greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, that needs to be taken care of so that there is no excessive heating of this earth. Okay. So this pictorial representation would help you understand the greenhouse gas effect. Okay. So this understanding is crucial, vital in understanding the role of the greenhouse gases in climate change. Now, this is very interesting kind of data. This data is produced by a very well-known institute called as United Nations, and there is United Nations Environmental Program. This data talks about two things. One is the carbon footprint on the absolute basis, and other is the carbon footprint on a per capita basis. Now look at this. If you look at the data of carbon footprint on the absolute basis, you would find that China, yes, China is the leader in emissions of greenhouse gases. followed by the United States of America. On a per capita basis, things change, and that is, as you see, the United States of America ranking as number one, Russia following the United States of America, Japan and China would also be contributing in a big way, but they now are not the leaders. So on the absolute basis, China is the top greenhouse gas emitter. On a per capita basis, it is the United States of America. And why is that so? The reason is obviously China is the most populous country, and hence it's also industrialized country. So together with this, so being populous as well as industrialized contributes to the ranking as number one on the absolute basis. USA, the population is lower, but it is the most advanced capitalized country, most developed, most industrialized country, and the per capita energy consumption is highest for United States of America, and that is the reason, and that is also reflected on the USA topping this chart on a per capita greenhouse gas emissions. So this understanding is very vital, not only vital for a general knowledge sake, but also from the perspective of action in the form of negotiations at the international level, global level. And that is what happened in Paris. These countries which are contributing to global warming, they assembled at Paris. There is a consensus on climate change. And why did they assemble? That is because these emissions, though not all agree, but about 97% of the climate scientists agree that the anthropogenic emissions, by the term anthropogenic, we mean the emissions contributed by human activity. So about 97% of the scientists, they agree that the anthropogenic emissions are responsible for climate change. This is documented in very interesting reports by IPCC, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. So those who are interested in this a deeper understanding of these issues, they are advised to refer to this. They just Google the IPCC reports and they would get very interesting insights on it. Not only IPCC, but also the World Bank and international energy agencies, they agree that the anthropogenic emissions, that is the human induced emissions, are responsible for climate change. And all of them agree that we are heading towards the catastrophic climate change. And if something is not done, then with the business as usual scenario, that is what is called as, if something is not done means with business as usual scenario, the target of keeping the emissions 2 degrees below the pre-industrial levels won't be achievable. And if that is not achievable, that is going to cause catastrophic climate change. So reducing the greenhouse gas emissions in a big way is the only alternative. And how do you do that? We need to have action at the global level and we need to have action at the local level. Action at the local level would require an understanding of carbon footprint, and action at the global level would require negotiations as happened in Paris. So as I referred to, the Paris Climate Conference, in which about 195 countries participated, they agreed voluntarily to reduce their emissions such that they together can keep the emission, the temperature rise below 2 degrees with reference to the pre-industrial levels. Okay, so that was agreed upon, and this target of well below 2 degrees centigrade should also be understood from the local context. Whatever the national governments do, okay, as a term of in terms of policy, if we as the citizens of this universe don't act upon, it would be virtually impossible to achieve this target set in the Paris Climate Conference. So the aims of Paris Climate Conference was to increase the ability of the parties to adapt to the adverse impacts of climate change, to keep the increase in global average temperature to well below 2 degrees centigrade above the pre-industrial levels. Okay, we have already crossed pre-industrial levels, you understand? And we have, if it increases to 2 degrees centigrade above the pre-industrial level, that would be catastrophic. That everybody understands. Okay, so the target is to keep that rise, okay, of above pre-industrial level up to 2 degrees centigrade, right? And if possible, to limit the increase to 1.5 degrees centigrade. Obviously, that limiting the increase to 1.5 degrees centigrade is more ambitious target. For that, each country must determine, plan, and regularly report on the contribution that each country undertakes to mitigate the global warming. There is no enforcing mechanism, but it is all voluntary. Okay. And hence, we also, each country, each citizen has a responsibility to help in this noble cause. To adhere to this target of restricting global warming, carbon footprint of each country, carbon footprint of each industry, each organization, each citizen should decrease. Hence, the crucial issue is how do one calculate the carbon footprint. So the next videos which you would be seeing, the next lectures of mine would be focusing on this very important aspect of calculation of carbon footprint. I hope the contest is set and we would be now in the position, we are now excited enough to start into the technicalities of calculation of carbon footprint. Thank you for now. Bye.